is Andres Bonifacio. Andres Bonifacio y de Castro was a Filipino nationalist and revolutionary. He is often called the father of the Philippine Revolution. He was a founder and later Supremo of the Katipunan movement, which sought the independence of the Philippines from the Spanish colonial rule and started the Philippine Revolution. He is considered a de facto national hero of the Philippines, and also considered by some Filipino historians to be the first president, but officially he is not recognized as such. He was born on November 30, 1863 in Tondo, Manila, and died on May 10, 1897 at the age of 33 in Maragondon, Cavite. He was the eldest child among the siblings. His siblings were Ciriaco, Procopio, Troadio, Esperidiona, and Maxima. His father, Santiago Bonifacio, was a tailor who served as a teniente mayor of Tondo, Manila, a local politician and a boatman who operated a river ferry. His mother, Catalina de Castro, was a mestiza born of a Spanish father and a Filipino-Chinese mother who worked at a cigarette rolling factory. His parents worked extremely hard to support him and his 5 younger siblings, but in 1881, Catalina caught tuberculosis and died. The following year, Santiago also became ill and passed away. He studied under Guillermo Osmeña, who taught him basic arithmetic, writing in Tagalog, and basic Spanish. He dropped out of school when he became orphaned at the age of 14 in order to support his siblings. He sold canes and paper fans he made himself and made posters for business firms. He worked as a messenger for the local parish choir. Later on, he worked for the British trading company J.M. Fleming as a broker or salesman for local raw materials such as tar and rattan. He later moved to the German firm Fresel, where he worked as a bodeguero or a warehouseman. He was also a part-time actor who performed in Moro plays. Despite not finishing his normal education, Bonifacio was self-educated. He read books about the French Revolution, biographies of the President of the United States, contemporary Philippine penal and civil codes, and novels such as Victor Hugo's Les Miserables, Eugene Sue's Les Jef Errant, Jose Rizal's No Limitang Here, and El Filibusterismo. Aside from Tagalog and Spanish, he could speak a little English, which he learned while working at J.M. Fleming and Corporation. Bonifacio was married twice. His first wife was on 1880 to 1890. Monica came from the Palomar neighborhood of Bacoor, who died young of leprosy. His second wife, on 1893 to 1897, Gregoria de Jesus, or Aling Oryang of Caloocan. They married when Bonifacio was 29 and Gregoria was just 18 in 1893. They had one son named Andres who died on smallpox in infancy. In 1892, he joined Rizal's La Liga Filipina, an organization which called for political reforms in Spain's colonial government of the Philippines. The Katipunan, a Philippine revolutionary society founded by anti-Spanish Filipinos on July 7, 1892. With his 2 friends Ladislao Diwa and Teodoro Plata, he formed the first triangle of a secret society which bore the initials KKK, Kataas-taasang Kagalang-galangang Katipunan ng mga Anak ng Bayan, or highest and most respected society of the children of the country. Katipunan was a secret organization until its discovery in 1896 that led to the outbreak of the Philippine Revolution. Within the society, Bonifacio used the pseudonym May Pag-asa or There is Hope. For a time, Bonifacio worked with both the Katipunan and La Liga Filipina. From Manila, the Katipunan expanded into several provinces including Batangas, Laguna, Cavite, Bulacan, Pampanga, and Nueva Ecija. Most of its members, called Katipuneros, came from the lower and middle classes, with many of its local leaders being prominent figures in their municipalities. At first exclusive male membership was later extended to females, with Bonifacio's wife Gregoria de Jesus as leading member. He was a member and eventually head of the Katipunan Supreme Council. He developed a strong friendship with Emilio Jacinto, who served as his advisor and confidant. As well as a member of the Supreme Council, he wrote several pieces of the paper, including the poem Pag-ibig sa Tinubuong Lupa, under the pseudonym of Agapito Bagumbayan. He wrote mga katungkulang gagawin ng mga anak ng ZLLB, the Decalogue. The publication of Kalayaan in March 1896 led to a great increase in membership. Bonifacio, Jacinto, and Pio Valenzuela collaborated on the society's organ Kalayaan, or Freedom, which had only one printed issue. The Katipunan spread throughout Luzon to Panay in the Visayas and even as far as Mindanao. From less than 300 members in January 1896, it had about 30,000 to 40,000 by August. The Katipunan had three aims: political, moral, and civic aim. For political, it wanted to free the Philippines from Spain by force of arms if necessary. Its members called Katipuneros were taught to make and use weapons. For moral, teaching of good manners, hygiene, good morals, and attacking dogmatism, religious fanaticism, and weakness of character. The Katipunan saw all men, rich or poor, as equals. And for civic aim, the Katipuneros were taught to care for one another in times of sickness and need. The society took care of its sick. If a member died, the Katipunan helped to pay the cost for a simple funeral. Death of Bonifacio. A party of Aguinaldo's men led by Agapito Bunzon and Jose Ignacio Poa met with Bonifacio at his camp in Indang. Unaware of the order of his arrest, Bonifacio received them cordially. The next day, Bunzon and Poa attacked Bonifacio's camp. Bonifacio did not fight back and ordered his men to hold their fire. Though shots were nevertheless exchanged, in the crossfire, Bonifacio was shot in the arm and Poa stabbed him in the neck and was prevented from striking further by one of Bonifacio's men, who offered to be killed instead. A brother, Ciriaco, was shot dead, while his other brother, Procopio, was beaten senseless, and his wife, Gregoria, may have been raped by Bunzon. Bonifacio's party was brought to Naik, where he and Procopio stood trial on charges of sedition and treason against Aguinaldo's government and conspiracy to murder Aguinaldo. The jury was composed entirely of Aguinaldo's men, and even Bonifacio's defense lawyer himself declared his client's guilt. Bonifacio was barred from confronting the state witness for the charge of conspiracy to murder on the grounds that was latter had been killed in battle. But after the trial, the witness was seen alive with the prosecutors. The Bonifacio brothers were found guilty despite the insufficient evidence and recommended to be executed. Aguinaldo commuted the sentence to deportation on 8 of May 1897, but Pio del Pilar and Mariano Noriel, both former supporters of Bonifacio, persuaded him to withdraw the order for the sake of preserving unity. In this, they were seconded by Momento Natividad and other bona fide supporters of Aguinaldo. The Bonifacio brothers were shot or executed on May 10, 1897, in the mountains of Maragondon, and buried in a shallow grave marked only by a few twigs and leaves. Apolinario Mabini wrote that Bonifacio's death demoralized many rebels from Manila, Laguna, and Batangas who had come to help those in Cavite and caused them to quit. In other areas, some of Bonifacio's associates like Emilio Jacinto never subjected their military commands to Aguinaldo's authority. Bonifacio as a hero. Andres Bonifacio, along with Jose Rizal, is one of only two implied national heroes of the Philippines. Bonifacio and Rizal are given the implied recognition of being national heroes because they both have the national holidays in their honor. Bonifacio Day on November 30 and Rizal Day on December 30. Andres Bonifacio Monument in Caloocan City. Andres Bonifacio Monument in City of Manila. Notable contributions to the world of colonial literature. Bonifacio wrote poetry and was a Moro-Moro actor, very typical of great communicators. Bonifacio was probably one of the greatest motivational writers and speakers of his generation. Using his native language, Bonifacio wrote with full passion and compassion. Bonifacio also wrote about how the Filipinos were tortured by the Spaniards. Interesting facts. Bonifacio kept himself busy with other productive endeavors. He became a member of a Tagalog Dramatic Society both as an actor and organizer of plays. In 1887, he and his friends established the Teatro Porvenir and staged Moro-Moros in Tondo. Bonifacio was also a Freemason and a member of the Taliba Lodge. Poems and works. Katapusang Hibik ng Pilipinas, The Last Appeal of the Philippines, Pag-ibig sa Tinubuang Lupa, Tapunan ng Lingap, Ang Mga Cazadores, Huling Paalam ni Dr. Jose Rizal, Salin ng Mi Ultimo Adios ni Gat Andres Bonifacio. The Decalogue, a 10-point address to sons of the country and how they should behave. The Decalogue. 1. Love God with all thine heart. 2. Bear always in mind that the love of God is also the love of country, and this, too, is love of one's fellow man. 3. Engrave in the heart that the true measure of honor and happiness is to die for the freedom of the country. 4. All thy God wishes will be crowned with success if thou hast serenity, constancy, reason, and faith in all thy acts and endeavor. 5. Guard the mandates and aims of the KKK as thou guardest thine honor. 6. It is the duty of all that deliver, at the risk of their own lives and wealth, anyone whose life is in danger because of some noble cause. 7. Our responsibility to ourselves and the performance of our duties will be the example set of our countrymen to follow. 8. In so far as it is within thy power, share thy means with the poor and the unfortunate. 9. The diligence in the work that gives sustenance to thee is the true basis of love. Love for thine own self, for thine wife and children, for thine brothers and countrymen. 10. Punish any scoundrel and traitor and praise all good work. Believe likewise that the aims of the KKK are God-given, for the will of the people is also the will of God.